right bishop. Let's see here. Tag people. And I got to tag a beautiful bride. Beautiful bride. There it is. Tag Tasha in there too. All right. Let's go on. Yeah. All right. All right. You know, well, first of all, brother Bishop, as I always say, hey, thanks, or I just want to apologize in the beginning. I don't know if this internet is going to be acting stupid. I'm not sure. I hope not. But my Wi-Fi lately has been trash, so I apologize for that. What's up to everybody that is coming on? Appreciate you. So Donald, I don't know. So as I always say, brother, it's always good to get to hang with you, to hear your perspective on the matter, and just catch up with you. Your weeks are always full of stuff. You are everywhere.
So are you.
And, it's good to. I just always love to hear your perspective on stuff. I'm very thankful for the friendship. You know, how God has blessed us to be able to hang out these years and paths crossing and stuff. And I just want to say it's good to be here. And I wanted to also commend you yesterday. You opened up at the Labor Council's annual dinner, and brother, your stand for the Lord is super obvious.
Thank you.
And it's bold. And I think one of the things I recognized yesterday was that I was very thankful for was your boldness in standing for what you believe in, but also the incredible amount of respect that you show for other people that are in the room. And it's interesting because I think, not really, because I think sometimes in Christianity, the examples that we see a lot of times are very colonizing, right? In that this is, I don't care what you believe, homie, like, you know, and people almost feel like it's Christ-like to just always pronounce judgment. Yeah. Even though Jesus said, I didn't come to judge.
Exactly. I didn't come to be of the world, but to save it.
Yeah, right. The condemnation is that the ability to see has come into the world, but men chose darkness. That so you condemn yourself, right?
Exactly.
And so I really felt good. I appreciated the power of your prayer, the power of your presence, the fact that they even invited you to come. Shout out to the Labor Council for even being willing to do that.
Yeah, and I think the person that originally reached out to me, which most definitely want to acknowledge, is Brisa.
Brisa John. Okay. So just wanted to shout you out on that, man, and say I appreciate it. That is your element. You always stay true to what you believe, no matter what. And I want to say your boldness and your courage is encouraging to me. So thank you for that, brother.
And thank you, brother, and thank you for being that example to me.
Yeah, right.
I knew you was in the rest. Oh, I gotta be on my game, because if I'm not, he gonna come and snatch the mic out of my hand and say, "Hey, bro." No, it was a blessing to be a part of that. Most definitely, always a blessing to do this. I look forward to us coming together, having you as a brother and a friend in the Lord. Most definitely, I know that you're someone that will always have my back, even if I'm wrong. You'll correct me, but still got me. You know, we don't turn and say, "Hey, do what you got to do, man. Don't worry about it." You know, so appreciate that, because you don't find that a lot. And so, you know, whenever I go somewhere and I thought about you, I didn't know if you, because we hadn't talked about going to it, so I didn't know if you was going to be there. But in my mind, I knew you was involved with Balak and labor, and I was like, well, I might see Jason somewhere around here. Yeah. So I got us up. There he is. I'll probably see you.
And I didn't think I was going to see you, so I was in the lobby getting drunk, and here comes the bishop. I'm like, ah! So I had to put some Listerine on.
Now he was in his best behavior, plus some wife with him. So hey,
you know, I don't want my wife to get my chance. So
there you go.
No question.
There you go.
What's good, man? And thank you to those who have joined. That's cool. We appreciate y'all. We don't know who stays and who comes and goes. I don't know. So I apologize. What's up, G-Lo? Lamar, Chaz, what's up, man? Layla, how you doing, Queen? Mark, what's up, Bill? Perry, what's up, P? Donald, what's going on, y'all? Not sure how many of y'all still here, but it's good to see y'all. Ramo, hey, Ramo. And I just want to talk about this shirt real quick. You know, I always try. I hope we don't. I don't know, man. I'm gonna run out of shirts. I'm gonna have to go start purchasing some more shirts. But this shirt was given to me by the San Diego State women's basketball team.
Okay.
Yeah. So the NBA is not allowed to kneel. I guess it's in their contract, or I don't know if it's a contract or the rules, or already say.
The brother that was Muslim, I think something happened way back then, and they did kind of give him his little respect, let him do his little prayer during the time. Yeah. But
yeah,
they can't.
At large, they can't kneel, right? And so what they decided to do was get these shirts made, and they stood in solidarity with each other to support the movement from Colin Kaepernick with equality. And just a tidbit of information, one of the things that I love so much about this particular shirt is I support SDSU. I love that school. Their leadership is incredible. It's a very down-to-earth school. I do a lot of work with SDSU. And so their leadership is really down to earth. The people, the players on the teams, extremely incredible. And they gave me the shirt, but they were the first NCAA basketball team, women's basketball team. I believe the first NCAA team to wear these shirts. So the coach of the women's basketball team said, "Hey, you guys you can protest how you want to protest. You can honor the protest however you want to, and I'll support you, but you all have to agree on how you're going to do it." And so they couldn't all agree to kneel or not to kneel or whatever, right? So they all said, "Well, we'll just wear these shirts together," and they lock arms during the national anthem. And of course, when I'm there, I always put my fist up. Yeah, you know what I mean? So
that's why I guess with basketball, a lot of times when there's certain protests, they just come out with their shirts on, different types of shirts. That's whatever's going on at that time.
Yes. And so shout out to SDSU for standing up, and Coach Terry for allowing the ladies to express themselves. That's what the collegiate environment is supposed to be. Is an opportunity for these men and women to learn how to be uniquely you in a space like that. So shout out to SDSU for giving the ladies that space. Which, I mean, if we can just real quick, I wanted to maybe that kind of leads into a little bit of, we haven't got a chance the last couple of weeks to talk about the whole Jay-Z thing.
I know last week we kind of wanted to.
It was in the notes.
So just dive into it.
So it's not old news now, right? We don't want to get to that. This is still a very big deal. Still has major implications. I've had a lot of conversations with people. People have challenged my view on it. Yeah. A lot of people have challenged my view. And especially Chaz, my boy Chaz has challenged my view, has come out. We've had some dialogue about it. Layla, yeah, right. You're right, Layla. I was not getting drunk. I was just playing. What's up, Layla? She said, "I'm here." Hey, brother, that's Ram. What's going on? G-Lo, what's up, brethren? Booyaka. You know what I mean? That's what we do. My brother, anyway, that's a whole other story. But so I just, here's where I'm standing with it. I guess after having a chance to think about it and process. Tosh, what's up, Tosh? Yeah. Love you too, Tosh. My mayor 2020, Tasha Williamson. This is not a political show. Yeah, right. So my stance at the end of the day, man, I don't know all the details, right? It's difficult to stand on the outside and look in and try to understand all the nuances. But the reality is we really can't do that with a lot of things that we form judgments on, right? Exactly. Here's my thing. I just feel like Colin Kaepernick, he did not start the movement, right? The movement was going on. That's like saying that Rosa Parks.
Yeah, exactly.
She was not the first person to refuse to do it, right? It's just that and Martin Luther King was not the one that organized the March on Washington, right? It was not. He was the one that was able to take the credit for it, and he gets the credit, although, the brother's name is skipping my mind right now. But what has happened was Colin Kaepernick kind of brought this thing to the forefront and made us focus on it, right? I don't even think that was his intention. His intention was just to say, "Hey, I want to sit down on the bench on this roster, and I ain't getting up." And that's something he was doing.
And he already did it, I think, at least a couple of times.
Yes.
Before they noticed.
And we know all the stuff that happened, but the truth is it was on his back that this movement kind of kicked off. And so my thing is that if Jay-Z is going to make a deal with the NFL, he needs to bring Colin Kaepernick into that deal, right? And why do I say that? I say that because for me, when I look at it, it looks like you, if the NFL, some people will say, well, it may not be as smart for him to bring Colin Kaepernick because then we won't be able to converse the same way. Or we need to give these folks an opportunity to warm up to or whatever the excuse would be for not having them at the table. I'm saying, but these owners are still controlling the narrative if that's what's happening. If we can't, we need to be able to boldly bring our people into the room to be able to have these conversations or whatever, right? So if I want to talk about, it's like one of the things Layla did with the Time Gun movement. You can't bring people that aren't, it doesn't make sense to bring people who aren't affected to the table to talk about what happens with felonies that stay on their record forever. It don't make sense to have people that aren't affected. Right. You have to bring people that are affected. And so she brings people that are affected by this crisis into the room to talk to the governors. And so that's my thing with Jay-Z, bro. Like, you need to bring Colin Kaepernick into the thing. And people say, well, he settled out of court. Yes, but that was because of collusion. He settled because they were colluding to keep him out of the NFL. Right. Now, one of the things that Antonio Moore from ADOS, him and Yvette Carnell from Breaking Brown started the ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery. One of the things that he talked about, and he's an attorney, that he was upset about, and this is the kind of the rub that he thinks that Kaepernick did wrong, amongst a few other things, but was that we don't get to see, because of the way that they did it, because they closed the files, that part of Kaepernick's deal was that they weren't going to make the stuff public. Now, what we don't get to see with them not making it public is all the emails that actually showed the collusion. You have to be able to prove collusion. Right. So there was conversations that were taking place and all these things that we'll never get to see. Right. And that's where he kind of did the movement a disservice by doing that, right? But he didn't just get money to say, oh, okay, well, we'll just settle about it. He sued them for something completely different. So I think Jay-Z is wrong. Philip Randolph, that's right. Thanks, Chance. He's the one that actually started the March on Washington. Philip Randolph, and it was some union stuff. He's a labor guy. The porters, my dad was one on the train. I think it's the rail porters or something like that. I can't remember what they're called. So yeah, so at the end of the day, man, I'm just disappointed with the way Jay-Z did it. And now, you see him in the news right now, talking about blaming single parent families, fatherless homes for, and I'm not saying that single parent homes don't have an effect on the way kids see the world. I ain't saying that. But for you to use that as the example, you shine the light on that instead of blaming police officers for being judge and jury. I don't know anybody that's protesting somebody shooting at the police that gets shot. Right. I don't see nobody protesting that. Right. I don't know anybody that would say, hey, man, don't kill the dude. He was just shooting at the police. That ain't what we're talking about. Right. We're talking about unarmed black men being shot. You know what I'm saying? And just because you grew up in a single parent household does not mean Bayard Rustin. So you quit correcting me. Bayard Rustin, that's right. Okay, Philip Randolph was the rail porter guy, and Bayard Rustin. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out who was the one that started the actual march. But okay, I'm not going to answer that anymore. I got to stay focused. I got ADD like a squirrel. But my thing is that just because you grew up in a single parent household doesn't give the police the right to shoot you because they're afraid. The problem is that there's no accountability with police, and they're able to kill people without any repercussions. You got police departments that are investigating themselves. I always use the example, this lady's example or whatever, where the brother that was pulled out of the car here, was it Trinell? Is that the brother's name? The young brother that got pulled out the car, and they said he jumped on the police and all. Like, get out of here, man. That's not what happened. And then the chief gets on the news and goes, my officers did nothing wrong, but we're going to do an investigation to find out what happened. Well, why are you going to do an investigation if he didn't do anything wrong? And that's the stuff that we're protesting. We're protesting that type of stuff. So for Jay-Z to get on and make the example that we want to keep the police officers safe too, or whatever, it's like, dude, come on. And that's what happens when you use people and I'm just gonna throw this. Jay-Z doesn't have a college education. He doesn't even have a high school diploma, to my knowledge, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you can't still be smart. All I'm saying is that if you have,
smart.
I get it, but that's not the point. The point is if you're not doing research, and when you actually get up and start talking about stuff, you don't just use your personal experience. You look at other research and other things that experts and other people in the field are talking to be able to give weight and credence, of course. And so that's what I'm saying, man. Don't parrot the same old puppy.
He's not the expert on it, and he should be going to people who understand this, so he can really have the proper data and facts to look at it. Because that's what I do all the time. I don't have that. Any field you look at where you talk about experts and things like that, I always go to the expert. I go to the professors and all those that are experts in the research and everything. Sit down and talk with them for hours or whatever. Send me your data, what you have, and look at it for myself and call back, ask questions. What does this mean? What does that mean? How does this work? And so on and so forth. And that's numerous of questions. I mean, I do it on both sides. And this is one thing people don't understand. Even on the side with police, once I know, I'll call and ask them questions, try to get their perspective on things. I don't just jump out there and do stuff. I try to get perspective on all sides and listen to everybody. People on the got boots on the ground. People that's the expert, the researchers, the police, whoever, whatever issue you're dealing with. You got to look at all sides to be able to weigh and have a balanced view on, or if you try to be fair, to have a balanced view on what's happening, what's going on. I think here, and this is a problem that I have, is big to me, is bigger than just, him making a deal with the NFL and all that. The larger problem is that we rely on entertainers and athletes and movie stars and all these folks to be our leaders. You know what I mean? Yeah. We looking at them, and then you're Oprah Winfrey and people now. Oh man, I know y'all gonna kill me now. But people like that, like they're gonna be your leaders and stuff, man. Please cut it out. And that's why
it doesn't mean that they can't, but you can't, not just because you got money doesn't make you an expert on something. And that's what happens.
Well, yeah, and I think money is not everything, but I think it's bigger than that. I think people looking at popularity, how famous a person is, and things like that, and just throw people out there just because they say something, it must be more valuable than anybody else without even questioning it or challenging it and so on. And the bottom line, when you really look at this thing like you should be looking at it, at least from a lens of a spiritual view and from a biblical point of view, you got to have a true moral perspective, a spiritual perspective on it. What does God have to say? And we got to bring God in the center of what's happening. I know people don't believe in God and all those kind of things, and that's you, but I believe God, and I know why. From my perspective, the revelation that God has given to me, I know why the world is going in the direction that it's going in, and people like Jay-Z and many of these others cannot lead us, and that's part of the problem, right? We have these ineffective people that's not in a position to lead us at all. They're not a good example of what leadership should be, and we look to that instead of drawing from leaders within our own community, and even in our own communities many times. We look to people that look like leadership, right? That we think is leaders, and some of you folks just have stuff handed down to them, and that'll make you a leader. A true leader is first a good follower, and that's proven themselves. And these days, people don't have to prove themselves in any way of being a leader and so on. So I think with Jay-Z, he's a sellout. The bottom line, he's a sellout. He's for the money. He's for the money, and that's what he's going to do. He's never been about, really for the people. Sure. You know what I mean? And folks are going to follow him down that gutter, of where he's trying to lead people to. That's why we always got to have a proper perspective on things. And it used to be, back in the days, our especially, because my faith tradition is in the church and being Christian and things like that. You had somebody that you can go to on a spiritual side to get some advice, get some viewpoints and things like that to try to understand. And most of the time your pastor pretty much understood it all. If he didn't, he would try to get that.
Well, that's because there was a time when the church was actually connected.
Exactly. And that's what leads me to the next thing, which what I was going to say is that, when you talk about police and single parent homes and things like that, we know that during slavery, many times there's a lot of brutality that was going on there. That's when police and all that stuff came into place through the slave patrols and all of that. But when you talk about even after that, when you go all the way back to slavery to now, show me a period of time in history where Black people were not killed by the police, right?
With no accountability.
And so how, and when you talk about, and this is a fact, go do the research. This is a fact. When you talk about Black families were strong and were held together up until like the late 60s. And guess what started happening during that time? Mass incarceration, right? Pouring drugs into our community, right? So a lot of times we don't look at a lot of the other underlying things that impact our communities, but he want to just jump and say, brother, get out of here with that. I was on the streets, and see, this is the thing with me is that, people say the things change, yeah, because it was a lot worse when I was coming up, and police got away with a whole bunch more than what they get away with now, and even the killings and shootings and all that other kind of stuff.
It wasn't filming stuff.
And stuff was a lot crazier back then. And look, I've had homeboys and people that I was with that would, when the police come up, they're ready to fight or whatever. There was others that totally respectful and everything, whether they came from a single parent home or mother or father. I had a homeboy that had a mother and a father's home. He got killed by the police, right? Shot in the back of his head. He had a mom and a dad in the home. And so that really has nothing to do with it. When you want to look at, why this is happening. Why this is happening is because of systemic racism. Why this is happening because police comes out of the slave patrols, and they're set up that way in that culture, right? You have a culture that is set up to view a Black person and even Black police officers, many of the Black police officers that go in there, they view a Black person as dangerous, and they're going to pull their guns out. And if you move a certain way, they're going to shoot you versus when you're doing the white community. I like the way Commons broke it down, the way they broke it down in The Hate U Give. When Commons was having that discussion, he was a police officer having that discussion when the young lady, I forget her name, she was asking about would he treat a white person the same way? And he basically was saying no. And she's like, well, that's right. He said, well, that's just the way it is. He's a Black police officer, and that's just to bring out to show you that even they treat folks different in La Jolla than they will in Southeast San Diego. It's a culture, man. If you go in there, you're a part of that culture. And that's simply that. Now, there's some that try on the side to do the right thing and stuff. Because I saw a debate on Twitter where Jessica, the girl you speak with the Bill Trust thing, was trying to question someone because they said this gentleman talked about a few bad apples when in the police department, a few bad apples spoiled a whole bunch. And what you got to realize is that the only reason why you have those few spoiled bad apples is because you have a horrible culture that allows those bad apples to exist where you can't do nothing about it. And so nobody really addresses the culture or the leadership there, right? Or the policies that guide that. And so, those are the things that you got to tackle and you got to deal with if you want to change things. And I don't see anything that JC is doing that. They're having some concerts and whatever else he's doing.
Let's be clear about this. I think it was last week. The owner of the Dolphins had a big old fundraiser in the Hamptons for Donald Trump.
That's a rich place there.
Because he's a developer, and Donald Trump is a developer. And so this NFL dude's not going against anything that Trump's going against because that's money out of his pocket.
That's right.
All I'm saying, man, is that I think it's a farce to think that he's going to get in and have any opportunity to do anything. And one of the things that he may be able to do some things, but I don't think it's going to be of any real consequence. And the thing that you said some earlier that I think it's worthy to know over and over again for us. And it was about, you mentioned about you being a Christian in this space in the Black community. And one of the things I think the world needs the others, right? Other than the people, other than anybody else, other than the Black community needs to understand something just like we do in the Black community. One is that we are not a monolith.
No way.
We have existed for a long time. In communities with different
we have arguments, disagreements, and viewpoints and belief systems.
So there is no reason.
But we love each other.
But there's no reason for me, for you, for anybody else to feel uncomfortable being whoever you are in the Black community.
Thank you.
And so we are not a monolith.
That's right.
And so and what's happened is that is the way that colonizers think, is that they try to group everybody together and they treat a whole lot the exact same way. So if we do have one person that for whatever reason has a problem with authority and whatever, you can't group the rest of everybody else and treat them the same way. We need to treat everybody on a case-by-case basis.
Exactly.
And proximity is what actually makes a difference. And my thing is that you need to be close to the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
You need to be close to the community that you're serving.
Exactly.
And so we have a bunch of officers and people and for multiple reasons. Let's not just say that it's because they don't want to be here. I'm not going to I'm not gonna treat every white police officer or every police officer in general as a monolith either.
Right.
But part of it is housing prices are extremely expensive. The police officers don't even get paid enough. The city of San Diego doesn't. It's police officers, firefighters, anybody well. So it's not like I can't even afford to move in. I couldn't buy a house in Southeast right now. You know what I mean? It's too expensive. So let's say that. But in general, that's why they started those programs where you can, if you're a police officer, a firefighter, public servant, you can live in the community or whatever. They tried to do those things. And so, but I would love to see, was there anybody that took advantage of that? If you live in the community that you serve or you spend time there, then you get to understand the motions and the ways that people act. I'll never forget, I was with my cousin one time and we were at a Planned Parenthood booth in Minnesota. It was at Rondo Days. That's a big festival where I'm from. That anyway, long story short, we were at this booth for Planned Parenthood, and I was asking them, like, why are you guys at this? It's a Black event. Why are you here, right? And I wanted to hear what they had to say or whatever. And I was trying to tell the guy, but there's a large white festival that's happening in another community. Do you also have a booth in that? And he said no. And I was like, I didn't think so. And so you target these areas, and we don't need to get into it. We can argue. We can argue the health. My whole point is the point of me mentioning that story is that the discussion got a little bit like heated, I guess, right?
Okay.
And he was like, hey, calm down, man. Why are you, what? And I was like, calm down. I'm not even mad. Like, what? And my cousin was like, see, what was happening is you don't understand that Black people, when they talk, they use their hands and make gestures. And because you don't spend time in Black neighborhoods, you don't understand the mannerisms and the way Black people communicate. So you should spend more time. And that's my whole thing, is that
spend more time. Yeah.
Because when police officers make mistakes, people die.
That's right.
And so if you pull your gun and shoot at the wrong time because of something that is a simple, normal gesture, and it could be something simple, but because your brain is so colonized that you think everybody Black acts the same, thinks the same, and does it, you know what I mean? That this is what, and you get some of your examples from a movie or wherever you get your stuff from or whatever. So I just think it's dangerous to not be able to separate. And I think that it takes courageous leadership to be able to change that culture. You have to have somebody that doesn't come from inside the organization, that's able to come here to be able, it's like, who's the best person to clean out your garage? It's not you. Right? It's somebody that you know that's not married to all the mess that's in the garage. They can come in and separate the important stuff from, and that's why we need people that are not indigenous to San Diego sometimes to come and disrupt the culture and some of what we're doing. And so, and I think just shout out to everybody that's doing work to try to pick up the pieces for all the things that are happening in our community. And since Layla is or was on here, just shout out to Layla for the work that she's doing with Khalid and all them down, and Aisha and those down at Pillars of the Community, Brother Malcolm Morgan, and down at Pillars of the Community. And shout out to the Time Done movement. September 20th, there's going to be a record cleansing workshop plus a job fair at the Malcolm X Library from 11 to 3, I believe it is. And so if anybody's interested, I can't remember if you can reach out to Layla on Facebook, or there should be something where we can send people's information to the lawyers so they can begin to pull up the ration. Look, really trying to do the things that we can do to push this movement to get people's records cleaned up so we can take away some of these barriers to employment. Let me look and see what some of the folks are saying so we can make sure that we don't leave anybody out. Trinell Cannon, thanks, Layla. Trinell Cannon is a brother that they tried to say jumped on the police. Chaz says, to infiltrate a school of sharks, you must get in the water with them. Most will think you're either a shark or a fool. Well, I'm pretty sure, but I agree with that. I agree with that. And I think that comment is in reference to what Jay-Z's doing. And my whole thing is that when you get into a school of sharks, you have to have some some safeguards and measures put in place. I don't have any problem.
But here's the thing. I mean, where is Jay-Z going to change culture and policy or leadership? Because my thing on the federal level, Trump is basically redoing everything that Obama did. I had a lot of issues with Obama, but one thing I would say about him is that what he, you know, the executive orders and various things like that, and what his government could do outside of trying to get it through legislation. He did a lot of things, you know, like they were actually banning the box. So felons, because we went to DC and met with them about that. And I didn't even know at the time that they had actually done that. They had these consent decrees, you know, where they would have the federal government oversee police departments and put in policy, have them come to agreements to put policies in place to change the culture and the way they police in communities and so on. And Jeff Sessions and then, you know, Donald Trump and all them, when they got in, they started undoing a lot of that, right? I mean, on one end they say, oh, he's for prison reform, but on the other end, he's really like just opening the floodgates and taking us backwards from the perspective of how to police, you know, Black communities or communities of color, and really saturate the community now, and with no accountability within these cultures. So the police is emboldened, right? They feel like they have free reigns to do whatever they want to do and get away with it. And so one of the things that we have to do, we have to make sure of, is that like stuff like Jay-Z's doing, we have to understand is that he's not going to have no impact on that. He's not going to change that part, right? And he's not leading anybody. What masses of people are he leading? I mean, I know he's a superstar and all this other kind of stuff in rapping and all that, but where is he leading this mass of people, right? When you're talking about change of policy, change of culture, and so on. And locally, I mean, that's where it really at. Just like we talk about with changing district attorneys and things like that, it's locally with the police departments and statewide, like with AB 392, where you got to get bills like that into place and strengthen them. And you have to, like some of the things I can't talk about, but some of the things that we're doing locally that we're trying to do to change the culture within the police department and so on. And, you know, some of it we may lose, some of it we may win, but it happens on a local level. And he's disconnected from all that. So all he is just a trying to act like he do something and make a lot of money, continue to live rich. Just like they had that little cheap wine that they were trying to sell and stuff like that, and wasn't of a good grade. You know what I mean?
He was cheap grapes.
Well, I should say cheap wine, cheap grapes. Yeah. You know, and trying to get over who we trying to get over people.
Well, but part of the thing too, man, I think when you look at, I think it is important to say, like, why would we expect Jay-Z, and why do we expect, or why do we accept that Jay-Z would do that, right? I mean, even when you look locally, I mean, and I'm not even, and I think it's important to say this, I'm not hating on what Jay-Z is doing. If he does do something, man, great. Amen. And I'll eat crow. I don't care. Whatever. I hope I'm wrong. I'm just saying.
Prove me wrong.
But my whole thing is like, we just got to stop. We just got to stop letting people that we love go do things that they ain't got no business doing. Exactly. That's all I'm saying. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? It's dope. You know, and so, and I think when you look, and you said something about being up here, and I think when we look at even like government, right? When we look at politics, I think the focus is so heavy on what's happening in the White House that we miss the local issues that are happening, like you said, the district attorneys and stuff. And so I think
and creating our own independent, you know, investigative body.
But we won't have any of that if we keep getting the same old politicians that get in office, right? Yeah. Because everybody's
they're gonna keep the status quo.
Of course, everybody's gonna take these same. Nobody. You have to have. I personally believe that you have to have people who have demonstrated the ability and willingness to disrupt the status quo, right? And so when you look at career politicians, people that have been in politics forever, they're going to get in and pretty much do the same thing that they've always done, because that's how it usually goes. And I think we need politicians that are going to disrupt what we're used to seeing. And so that's why I'm for. Just for instance, is for Tasha to become the mayor. And my whole thing is that if you have a government that's for the people, by the people, and of the people, you have the resources, you have somebody that's demonstrated the ability to lead organizations to be fair across the board, all these things, we have to get to the point where we're willing to say, not only will we bring in somebody new, but we also want to participate in the change that's happening. We have to be able to see the willingness to invest in change like that. And it takes time, right? Change takes time. But we have to stop, I think, being willing. And this another thing you said before, I think we have to look at getting rid of the old guard that has been what we talked about a few weeks ago, being gatekeepers, those people standing at the gate deciding who gets in and out, that are selling out for some crumbs. Somebody that I know, and I'm not going to blast them out, but was talking to somebody else I know and asked if they knew me, and said that, I guess they said that we don't get along and stuff. And it's like, it's interesting. And I said, why? I said, why we don't get along? Because this particular person is really a sellout. And I don't like that type of, I don't like that. I don't like if you're a sellout. I don't like that type of stuff. And it's like, I always go back to like we talked about the preachers that used to be the ones who would sort of hold the community together and like speak truth and be problem solvers and be guardians, right?
We go there for everything.
You be guardians and call people out, and it's even biblical for us not to go to court. Believers are not supposed to go to court with each other. We're supposed to, you know what I mean? It was a shame that they couldn't solve the problems within the church. And so my whole thing is that this particular preacher, like when Genevieve was my DA for life, she's my DA for life, and I mean that, I'm serious. But when she was running, and I confronted this particular individual about his lack of support for somebody, you got a business or you got a ministry right in the heart that's less than a mile away from where this sister that is more than able to be a district attorney or whatever, where she grew up at, and this community raised her, and you have a ministry that you call it in this community, and you won't even consider her. And then I knew you didn't consider her because you didn't even know her name. You couldn't even say her name correctly. You know what I'm saying? You called her by a different name. And then when I asked you why you wouldn't support her, you just used the same tagline that was on the current position holders campaign page. You just like the dude had the notes in front of him quoting, and I'm like, this is what we can't have. We need to get rid of these old leaders, stop supporting them, and get them out of here. There's no torch. Nothing's going to be passed down. They have nothing to pass down to the community. They're out of touch with what's happening in our community. They're not involved in what's going on. They're only interested in keeping their doors open because too many of them regret. You regret not being in a career. They regret not being in a career where they got a pension. So you're gonna live and bleed the community to death, so you can continue to get these little funky $2,000 grants, sell the community out just so you can keep your car payment up. You snake, get out of the community. You know what I mean? That's what I'm. And so that's
he said it. Not me.
I said it. And my thing is, whoever the shoe fits. If the shoe don't fit, I ain't talking to you. It don't matter. But I think it just needs to be said. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous that we got all these sellouts in our community, bro, and they just walking around here comfortable. If you a sellout, you shouldn't be able to walk around Southeast just comfortable. You know what I mean? Since when did we start letting that be a part of the thing, man? You just you're a cancer to the community. You just get to walk around with immunity. Like, man, don't let the people into your facilities and stuff, man. Don't let them hold events at your spaces and stuff, man. No, we don't want them people, man. You can't be a part of the gang culture if you ain't never been a part of the gang culture, and you ain't close to nobody that's been a part of it. You don't have to have been a part of the gang culture, but at least know some people that are and allow them to speak. How do you end up being over something with the police? Anytime the mayor, who's not focusing on police reform, picks you to be somebody that oversees something about the mayor, about the police, that's a problem.
You know, and first of all, let me say,
I digress.
I cautiously agree with you in a sense that I don't want to get in trouble saying that. I'm saying that because, you know, I know what you're talking about, and I talk with this, but I say, hey, look, I'm not going to, call y'all no more unless we talk first. So I got to keep my word on that.
That's fine, but he called my name.
I hear you. Yeah.
I didn't call
but here's the other thing. I agree with you, but here's the thing. I think that and it goes along with what you're talking about with mayor. You mentioned Tasha running for mayor and things like that. Because it goes along with that from the perspective of who wins, right? And Mayor Faulkner won. And I remember when Mayor Faulkner ran, and I was supporting David Alvarez, and all those pastors were supporting Faulkner, and they won, right? So, they're, of course, a lot of stuff they're doing we disagree with. We call it out when we see it and so on. But the bottom line is they won. They supported these guys, and they won. So, they getting their whatever they're supposed to be getting, and that's the bottom line to that. And that's how politics work, I guess, and so on. But and that's kind of the way I see it in front of perspective. So it goes back to what you said at the beginning. We just have to change leadership. change the old guard, or what we are not happy with, we have to change. And I think I'm not expert in this, and I'm just speaking from my layman point of view and layman terms. Is from what I pick up in San Diego, is that in some areas it seems to lean progressive or liberal, but when it comes to issues impacting Black people, and when it comes to issues of policing, these folks are very conservative. And that's why you see platforms the way some of these folks run, you know, whether they run for mayor, DA, and so on. That's why they run a certain way, because they want to win. And because that's the way that the mass majority of people are doing things. So I think on the other side of that coin, we have to be wise too. You know what I mean? We have to really use some godly wisdom. Ask God to give us some wisdom to be wise enough, as Jesus told his disciples. He said, "Be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove." And a lot of times we don't use wisdom in the sense of how do we draw more people into this. And that's one thing I was trying to Tasha, what I talked to Tasha about a couple times, that you got to get beyond just Southeast San Diego and, you know, the south of the 80. If you're really going to win, or if you're really going to make an impact on this, you really got to reach the masses over there that's going to turn out and vote, you know, and the mass majority of them are very,
I get it.
are very, yeah, it's a trip though, right? I mean, it's strange because in some areas they are progressive, you know. I mean, like when Obama won, majority of San Diego County voted for Obama, right? When he won, but at the same time, when it comes to certain issues, when it comes to criminal justice reform and who you're gonna put in as DA, when it comes to issues impacting the Black community, it just seems as though, at least from the perspective, let me say two things, because I don't, at least from my view, is that when it comes to politicians, they're still kind of stuck on that old way of thinking and putting people in that's probably either moderate or more conservative when it comes to the reform aspect. But when it comes to laws, though, policies and propositions, or especially propositions, I have seen some shift in that area, where if you can frame the narrative right, a lot of these people will vote in support of certain bills, you know, because, you know, Prop 57 got through, and it went to court challenges, and last year it finally went through its last challenges, and so now that is starting to be implemented, but, you know, still got to go before the parole board and things like that. And so, and then you look at AB 392 that just got passed. I think Shirley Weber did an awesome job on politically speaking, because, you know, a lot of people try to frame the bill a certain way, and she made it clear what it will do. But we know we're going to face a lot of challenges in court on it. But hopefully at the end of the day, we will have something that will be strong enough to hold police accountable. I think one of the problems that we're going to face is what's going to happen nationally, you know, as far as, you know, because people say they're not paying attention to all these judges and so on that's getting appointed in these various places, the Supreme Courts and local courts, things like that, because judges play a serious role when it comes to turning things back, because everything that we have today when it comes to policing, when it comes to what they're allowed to do, when you talk about pretext stops, when you talk about searching folks, when you talk about arresting people, when you talk about locking folks up, the Supreme Court have made rulings in favor of the criminal justice system to harshly sentence people, but also to harass us, brutalize us, kill us, and stop us for nothing, right? I mean, they just, you know, the police, to be honest with you, they just kind of like playing along with the laws and what the Supreme Court gave them with the pretext stops, even though they have no reason to do it. But all these laws were made because specifically to impact Black people, right? And so so when we talk about politics, when we talk about bringing change and changing culture, things like that, you got to look at these court systems, you got to look at the police, you got to look at the whole system, and it's got to change. But it does start with the political leaders that you put in place, nationally and locally. But I think we as, well, American descendants of slavery, but people as a whole, especially folks that are impacted by this criminal justice system, most definitely have to start looking at these locals issues on a more serious side, you know, because that would impact us the most. When you look at the federal prisons, I think about only 10% of the prison population is federal prisons, right? Or federal incarcerated inmates. So most of it is locally, and California has the largest prison system in the world, not just, you know, in America, but in the world. And in America, there are more Black men that are locked up in America than women that are locked up around the world. right? So we know, and we know that this prison system here is a huge thing, and it's systemic, right? It's based on racism. I should say systemic racism or structural racism. And it's based on that, right? It's race based. And we see it when you find 40% of people in prison are Black folks, you know, and we got a problem there. We got to try to work to fix that. But the mindset of people, we have people infiltrating into our communities, right? White people who will make you think that they're for you, or we want to build trust, we want to do all these kind of things, but they go whatever way the funding and the money go. They'll be with you today, like people like, I'm not gonna mention her name, but was one person I see is like selling us out now, or you would think that you thought that she was for the community and for trying to make policing better, but it's really not. So we've been tricked on all ends, and that's why we got to be careful who we let into our communities and who we work with and things, because they come in, they use it, they get the funding, and they come in and use us. And then when you try to tell them, like, look, if you want me to work with you, this is the way it's got to be, you know, and they won't change. They'll continue to do it. But then you have all these sellouts that go in and work with them and help them to succeed and so on. And so it's a challenge, man. It's a challenge because, you know, money is power. That's what's happening with Jay-Z. To give people, you know, it influences people, and the love of money is the root of all evil. And I think a lot of people love money that much. You know, I'd rather be poor. You know, I don't, you know, I don't want to be homeless or anything like that. But you know, my goal is eternal life, and I want to be with the Lord. I want to hear God say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." That's the bottom line. So nobody owns me. Nobody owned me. I lost a good paying job for standing for what I stand for before I started, went full-time ministry. So, you know, as far as with me, man, I walked away from a lot of money. You know, like I was telling folks, if that's what I want to do, I can play the role and still do it, you know, but that's not what I'm about. And so, you know, and I think everybody should be that way. But a lot of times people are more concerned about what their boss is going to say. That's why I don't never take anything that's going to muzzle my mouth. You know, that's going to shake me up. I can't do that. And people do that. And so these people get in these positions. You don't look for the San Diego Commission on Gang Prevention Intervention. Don't look for their chairman or executive director. Maybe the chairman can have a little juice, but the executive director for sure don't have no power because they can fire his butt, right? The CAB, the Citizen Advisory Board on Community Relations and Police and Community Relations, and the Community Review Board. Don't rely on those don't think those executive directors are going to do anything but what those folks want up there, right? They're not for the people. They're not for us. And I know people ain't going to like what I'm about to say, because and those boards don't have no power. I don't care what ordinances, charters, and different things that you change. And I know they're trying to change. They don't have no power to fire a police officer or to file charges against him to have him sent to prison. We got to do it like with AB 392 and other policies and other laws, and get a real independent investigatory board that is not hooked to the city, that's not hooked to the county, but maybe under the federal government, under the state government, where it's independent, coming to that county or coming to that city and do an independent investigation. That's the only way it's going to work. And this stuff, we just wasting our time and spinning our wheels and making a lot of noise. But at the end of the day, we're going to be here 15 years later still talking about the same thing, because we're not really fighting for change. You know, I mean, we're fighting for change, but not the right kind of change. And we always say we got to start somewhere, and I'm down for that. I always get in line and fight with people. But I'm wondering, you know, when people are going to really start fighting for the real fight, to bring real change.
Well, I think, and all good points. You know, one of the things you talk about change and politics, and one of the things you said reminded me that the things that are police reform and stuff are not issues that San Diego really cares about. Right? The issues that are front and center in San Diego is all issues of sexuality and choices and stuff like crime stuff, all the things that homeless, you know, which whatever they're good. Whatever.
We have a lot of people that's homeless too.
But things that pertain to Black people, even disparities in the LGBTQ community pertaining to Black people. Black trans are the ones being killed the most. I don't never see nobody's. I just don't.
Only Black people speak out about it.
And here, I'll say this: I'm not in the community to see it. I don't. But I'm just saying it ain't a big deal like anything else that I see is a big deal, right? I really don't. I don't see that community standing up for as a whole. You see members within the community There are some members within the LGBT community that are writers and like, man, whatever, homie. Like, and you see, and a large example of this, man, and I respect Ellen DeGeneres, man, is when they came at, she has a talk show. Ellen DeGeneres got the talk show. She stood up with Kevin Hart. She stood up against the community because the community looked back at Kevin Hart's his Twitter or some type of social media 10 years ago where he made some.
I thought did she backtrack on that?
I don't think so. Okay. I don't think so. But so she went and talked to the people for him to do the award show and all this. But she stood up and helped him. So shout out to her for that. So my whole thing is just in general as a whole, I don't see that community really coming out and saying anything when it pertains specifically to members of their own community that are African American, that are Black, right? I just don't. And I think we need to look at those types of things. And I think we need to look at the ideologies that we adopt as Black people to ourselves that further alienate us from the culture or whatever without any support.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So if it's tough to be a homosexual in our community, it's even tougher than to just be homosexual with your family and all the things that happen, but it's even harder to be homosexual and be Black, because if your family's going to disown you, so is that community if there's something that happens with you. There's no large cry for we need to protect our own that are being killed as trans men and women, right? And so my thing is, man, we got to be honest about that type of stuff, man. And don't nobody want to talk about that stuff. And it's like, man, it's just true. It's just true. And so one of the things I just want to, that's why I said a post the other day about Dave Chappelle's new comedy show, and I forgot what it's called.
Lord have mercy on me.
Is that what it is?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
Lord have mercy.
Because he came after like a lot of the cancel culture. Like his whole thing was like, man, y'all, people quick to just dismiss people and get rid of folks. And I think so much of what we do is based on the ideologies of colonizers, bro. Yeah. And so for me, man, I just feel like we got to be able to be honest about the things that are happening. We have to be honest about the people that are doing things in our community that aren't right, that aren't healthy for our community. We have to be able to call these things out. I understand needing to be political. I understand that there's certain things that you cannot say because of the impact that it had. Something could be forming right now where you need to sneak up on somebody, if you will. I don't know how to say it, but whatever. You know what I mean? You don't want. It's kind of like
something done.
Right.
I'm in those situations.
And that's great. And so one of the things that and I don't know what those things are, right? But one of the things that I commit to is that I don't want to interfere with the things that you got going on. But because I know you and I trust you, I know you're not a sellout, right? So I'm like, okay, well then I will.
Because if you're gonna talk about sellout, I mean, number one, no position. Number one, no money. I don't get paid.
Facts.
Nothing. All the stuff I do over there, I don't get no. It's strictly because of people and families and folks come to you. Whatever little word you have that can help somebody. That's all you want to do.
All I'm saying is that I trust what you're doing. And so I'm saying, what do we need to stay away from? Because I know that you can talk about something, even the discussion, the brief 2-minute discussion about the LGBT community, TQ community, somebody could take that and turn it against me, even though it is not, there was nothing derogatory. It's just truth. Right. According to people that are a part of that community that are Black and trans. Right. And that's what they're saying. I'm not a part of the community, but people will take that and they'll use it. And guess what? Truth is just truth. Yeah. And colonizers don't care about that type of stuff. And we have to be careful that we don't adopt those colonizer ways and just start telling people how they're going to think, what they're going to do, how they're going to behave, what you can and can't talk about. It's funny. Just today, there was a discussion that was being had on somebody's page about selling out and me selling out because of
you sold out.
Yeah. Well, really, I was called an ass kisser. Sorry, Bishop, I didn't mean to stain your conscience right now.
Hey. When you mentioned David Chappelle, I heard somebody said something about it. I said, let me watch this
Well,
thing.
did you watch it?
Yeah, but Lord have mercy.
No,
man.
there's no. But here's the thing. No. There's no question.
He got a filthy mouth, man.
There's no question.
But of course, you know,
But
David
he-
Chappelle.
But he is not.
But he said some stuff that was true, though. Yeah.
Listen, I'm not promoting you. People go watch it and do whatever you want to do with it. My whole thing is
Cautiously.
that, but we need to understand that he is an influencer in
And
the
a
black
comedian.
community, and he's a comedian.
Yeah. And a comedian.
But he's challenging boundaries that have been set up by colonizers about stuff you can't talk about.
Mhm.
I don't agree with a lot of stuff he said.
Mhm.
Some of the topics he used,
Yeah.
I think he crossed the line until you realize that he's a comedian.
Yeah.
And all he's saying is, you ain't gonna shut me up. I got enough money right now, like I don't care, and millions of people gonna watch my special.
Mhm.
And I
He
think
said, don't
that
click on my face.
you the one who came and clicked on my face. But I guess for me, man, where I'm at with it all, man, is that I just feel like in the midst of where we are, we have to come together as a black community to strengthen the people that are trying to make change and do things in our community that benefit our community. And at the end of the day, whether it's just this tiny 4.5%, 5% black community in San Diego or not, we need to be together.
Exactly.
And if that means us against the world, which it won't, but if that's what it's saying, then fine. But I was told today, and I wanted to just, for me, I'll end on this particular thing. There was a conversation that was happening on somebody's page about, and I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to draw attention to it, but I won't say who or whatever, but because I don't want to draw attention to it because it'll raise up something more. But I was called an ass kisser because I work with labor and because of labor's involvement against Councilmember Montgomery and stuff like that. And then the same person that said
I
that,
thought it was split kind of in half.
and it could have been. I don't know the numbers. I don't know. I just, and I don't even want to get into all that because there's a lot of. This is one of those things. There's a lot of conversations that have been had.
But somebody said that you were.
Somebody called. Yes. And so what I told this individual, I said, well, let me. So there's two things that happened. I said, well, when I started my program, I looked for something that was helping the particular men and women that I felt called to help, and I couldn't find nothing. I'd love to join whatever you're doing to help get formerly incarcerated men and women careers. Oh, you don't have anything, so I can't come. So I had to start my own. And so, and then when he was challenged on something, his words were, "I'm not working with these particular individuals. I'm working through them." And so my comment to him was, "Oh, well, just so we're clear, because I'm kissing ass for working with somebody, but you're working through someone. So let me just for clarity, let me ask: are you working through these, or are you kissing ass?"
Exactly. Yeah.
So my whole thing is like, man, we have to build relationships. We got to have difficult conversations. There are folks that we're going to have to work with that I just believe if somebody has good intentions, I want to send a shout out to labor. I want to send a shout out specifically to Tom Lemon for coming. I'm just saying, and guess what? Guess what? He doesn't hide. We sat down and had a conversation about a whole lot of things that he's been accused of. And here's what I know. When he says, take my number and call me if you need something, he makes calls for folks. He goes down to the labor places when they go. He makes. All I'm saying is that the things that we can do to get people jobs, that's happening right now. That's what I know. And it's almost like, and this is not like I'm with Tom and I'm gonna bet. I'm just saying, if this is what that brother shows me, that he's willing to do this, that's what I'm asking for. And it worked. And so that's what it's kind of like when Pharisees came to the guy who was blind before, like, tell us who did this. And he's like, man, I don't know who the guy is. I don't know all of those facts, but here's what I do know. I used to be blind and now I can see. So I don't know where he's from, where he came from, but all I do know is that I used to be blind and now I can see. And what I know is that, and I believe God is sovereign. And the turn of events that happen, And for us to be able to introduce these formerly incarcerated men and women to careers in the building trades, where we say, and shout out to Brother Manny for making this card for me, my homework card. And the tagline at the bottom says, using the building trades to build stronger women and men, right? And so if you see like me, this is my daughter's design. The me is accentuated with the roof over it, showing that we're building building stronger men and women. And all I know is that we are doing what we can to bring men and women into the building trades or whatever, from incarceration, from being affected, to an opportunity to have pensions, to have health care benefits for themselves and for their family, to be able to earn a wage that will be able to sustain them living, purchasing a home, having a car, and restoring some dignity. That's what I do know. And so, as I told the individual, if you can point me somewhere else that's able to do that, I'm all ears. But until then, don't criticize something that you're not willing to do anything about. I'm willing to put and if something happens, it's all on me, man. I whatever. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but it's working right now. And so I just want to say, man, like, we have to learn to have these relationships. We got to learn to allow people to apologize or whatever they need to do in order to cross these boundaries. And I understand the ability to have to intersect with people. And shout out to San Diego Building and Construction Trades Council. They do not endorse the things that I say and what I'm talking about. I'm serious. It's important to say. I'm just saying that for the relationship that we have with Homework, I want to say shout out. They don't have anything to do with what we talk about on Sundays or whatever. But as far as Homework is concerned, thank you, so that you can help us with the reality that when men and women come home from incarceration, they want to work. And we give them the ability to do some homework on themselves. So shout out to the San Diego Building Construction Trades Council. Shout out to the Electrical Workers Minority Caucus for sponsoring the dinners. Shout out to Pillars of the Community for providing the space. Shout out to my wife for now working on doing some of the administration part of this or whatever. Shout out to Layla for just running around making sure that, like, the things that make the biggest difference, the forks and all that, we're doing the best that we can to put Southeast back to work. One last thing I'll say, in my job, I hadn't been to a union meeting in forever. I always paid my dues, but here's what I told our last union president. I said, I don't really go to meetings because I didn't understand the value of it. I didn't understand politics just until like a year and a half ago, till Councilmember Montgomery started running and my DA is going for, that's when I came into politics. I didn't know. I took time off work to walk for them. My point was, I told our past president, I said, bro, I don't, like, I'm down for whatever the majority of the people are down for. I don't go to union meetings and do any of that. But here's what I also won't do. Because I know I don't go to union meetings and I'm not putting in that work. So here's what I won't do. I won't complain on the job about the way things are going if I ain't willing to jump in and say nothing. I ain't going to criticize you for what you are not doing. Because just like I told somebody that believes something different, he came to my door and was trying to give me a pamphlet about the religion he believed in. And I said, you and I don't agree on almost anything, nothing. But here's what I will tell you. I commend you, because what you are doing, and this is what I want to tell the person who's criticizing me for what I'm doing, I want to use my words on him. And I want him, and this, I'm gonna be like him. I'm gonna be the guy that criticized me today, and I'm gonna talk to myself through him. What you're doing for what you believe in is way better than what I'm not doing for what I believe in. And so my thing is, man, to those of you in Southeast that's out there working, putting in work, and actually doing the work, and you out there struggling, and everybody sitting on the sidelines criticizing, because what we always have an abundance of is cowards and people who don't want to put themselves in hot water. I just want to say, man, whatever you are doing for the people, no matter what it is, big or small, what you are doing is better than what the people who are criticizing you aren't doing. And so keep doing what you're doing. And to me, that's kind of what I want to end on, man. Whatever I am doing is better than whatever another person ain't doing.
And you know, you can always have critics, right? It's not the critics that matter, but the man in the arena, right? And so that's what's important, and you just keep up the good work, keep what you're doing, and you know, and sometimes, you know, I kind of like, you know, I think I talk to my wife more than anybody else, you know.
Sure.
But you know, I was sharing with my wife that you know, sometimes when people criticize you or certain things happen, I always have to, like, I have to look within myself a lot of times, like, okay, well, maybe God is trying to show me something about me because I'm feeling a certain, thinking and feeling a certain way about this. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we begin to think that our feelings justify or what we think and feel because of what somebody said about us or did to us. It justified the way I think and feel about them. But really, I shouldn't react to what people do to me, right? I should be reacting to what's going on in the inside of my life, inside of me. So if I'm not thinking right, feeling right, doing right, then I have to put myself in check because no one can dictate, no one can control, no circumstance control how I think and feel but me, right? And so no matter what's going on in the outside world, but sometimes it does. And then when that happens, I have to look at myself and say, why am I thinking this way? Why am I feeling this way? Why? So something in me, is it my pride? Is it, am I got selfish ambition? Am I full of strife? You know, what is it, Lord, that is in me that I'm feeling this way? Am I envious, or jealous of someone? So I'm always trying to check myself. So even what I'm trying to say is even the critics and even the negative stuff that come at you benefits us because we can learn from it and we can really draw some strength from within ourselves and make ourselves better in the process. Like, you just made me a better person. You just showed me something in me that, because I'm going to have a better response the next time versus this time.
Well, I mean, man, no, man, brother,
I'm just saying.
No, man, I just believe it. I just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I thank God for the people that have come to help make homework a reality and a dream, man. Like, let me.
But, and here's the other thing is that, and I'm glad one thing that you did say, and I think, people got to look at, the Bible says, by their fruit, you shall know them, right? You should know what they are, and you should know them. Some people don't have any good fruit. And like you was talking about, some people, they can criticize, they make a lot of noise, they're active. I forget what they call that word when they're active on social media and all of that, and they'll show up, whatever, but you ain't, what are you doing? What are you building? Right? Who are you leading? I mean, what's going on here? And so a lot of times what you find, what you discover and what you find out is that these people really don't have no impact at all. And sometimes you need to be called out on it. Like, why, you should, who are you? You should just go somewhere and sit down and be quiet for now. Get on a real long time out.
Well, and they
until come back to the table when you bring something.
And they won't. And I think, but that's why, man, I think it's important, man, to encourage people who are out here doing the work, because the truth is that you will find way more naysayers than you will find people who are willing to be helpful. And that's just a part of it. And so for me, I just got to remember that, man. And I'm serious, man. I was thinking the other day, man, how thankful I am for Layla and for Tasha Williamson, brother. When I brought this idea to them, they both thought it was an excellent idea, and I was so nervous to kick the ball off, to just do it.
And you did.
And that's because I was in a text group with me and Tasha and Layla, and they were like, really like, yeah, brother, let's do it, or you do it, whatever, do it. And so I went to kick the ball off, and then I got scared. I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna do it. And I wish that the text message was still here, but I can't find it. But Tasha was like, basically, she was like, well, call me when you're not scared. Kind of. She might not even been saying that, but that was the way I interpreted it. And I was so ashamed of myself. I was so ashamed of myself, man. And but I said, you know what, I'm going to get started. And because I did, we're going on our 9th month. We just finished our 8th dinner, man. And it's just been neat. It's been neat, man. Some of the people in the community that's been willing to come out. We're getting ready to do a project that kind of highlights the building trades and some of that stuff. We got some real neat stuff, man, that people are doing. So I just want to thank God for the people that have been willing to be there. Tom been there all 7 months. He comes every week to our life skills class to show up, to encourage folks and give them their phone number. That's right. And
thank you.
And just, man, I want to say, man, just it's beautiful. So anyway, man, we're gonna get on, brother. But that's it. We're an hour and 8 minutes, so let's get on. But again, man, I just appreciate you.
What time is it?
It's 8:30, 8:47. I gotta go. I was supposed to meet somebody at 10 minutes after 8.
Oh, okay.
I told him I'm gonna be late.
Get on it.
So, man, everybody that stayed and listened, Chaz, what's up, man? Now Mr. Wallace. I don't know if he knows who I'm talking about, but there's a brother that is just joining the electrical union. I don't know if that's who he's referring to. But shout out to everybody that
I used to be a part of the labor movement.
Yeah, no, I know you told me.
I was with when I first started with the union. I was with ASHME, Council 10, and our local. I was with the service local 3258. I started out with a steward, then became president of our local, and then I became vice president of state council. And then when the Fair Share came into play, a lot of money. We merged with Council 57, but then was able to go stand on our own 2 feet and became local 3299. And they mentioned it last night a couple of times. I didn't know. I thought, did they say something last night about them being on a strike or something like that? Or not strike, but I had to have a contract in a couple of years. I heard something like that.
I know that the grocery workers, UFCW, I know that I think the UFCW looking to strike. So I just want to encourage everybody, if you know anybody that just pay attention. You know, there's a website, and I need to share it. There's a website that talks about all the union workers around the country, including hotels and stuff. So when you're planning your vacation to, stay in hotels that have union people there, support the strikes of people that are not, because really it is about better wages. These companies have the money to pay a little bit of extra that it would cost. A $10 million budget for a company making $40 billion is not that big of a deal. And so we need to support these folks, man. You got people that can't even, and if you want clean sheets and stuff in your, if you know what I mean? If you want hotels and workers to pay attention to bed bugs and all the type of stuff that affects you, if you want them to wash your pillowcases and stuff, then support the ones that are happy coming to work, the ones who can afford to actually live somewhere. Support those hotels. One job is enough. So anyway, but I just want to say shout out to everybody that stayed, anybody that watched even a part of it, those of you that might watch later on. Thank you, Bishop. As always, man, I appreciate you. Enjoy your time when you guys go where you're going. And preach well, speak the whole counsel of God, say the hard things, man. And everybody else, enjoy your week. We love you, and it's been real.
Amen.
All right, peace.
I should look up there.